Hello and welcome back to this video series on how to make a PacMan game in Scratch 3. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to add an enemy that PacMan can touch and that will temporarily slow PacMan down. So let's get started by creating a new sprite for our enemy. So we're going to paint a new sprite and we just need to draw a ghost. So for this I'm going to work in bitmap mode, it's just slightly easier, and I need to choose a colour for my ghost, so I might choose a kind of sort of dark blue colour. And I'm going to start off by drawing a circle. That's sort of the top of the head, and I'm going to get a bit of a square shape. Let me just zoom in a bit. I'm going to get my rectangle tool. I'm going to stretch that out a little bit so it creates like the body of the ghost. Let's add some eyes. So I'm going to grab the circle tool again. I'm going to go to white. I'm going to do another one of those. Placing them quite close together gives a bit of a cartoon effect. And let's put some black. Let's give it black pupils. And finally, let's just use the eraser tool just to cut out, might make it a bit smaller, just to cut out kind of a feet for it. Oh, before I do that, actually, I'm going to duplicate this costume so that I can have two different sort of feet shapes. Not the best effort in the world, but let's try another one now. And the idea is that now they can move between the two states, and it will give a little bit of animation as the ghost moves along. So that's all you need to do in order to actually draw your ghost. We're just going to add a little bit of code to this now. First off, we want to name our ghost sprite. So this is going to be the slowdown ghost. So call it slowdown ghost. And we're going to add some code to this to say when the game begins, or in fact we can even do a when I receive. Now we want this to appear, you know, when the dots appear and everything else appears, so should the ghost. So we'll do when the dots are shown. We want the ghost to appear, so we're going to want looks and show, and we're going to want to set up a little loop that runs forever, changing between those two different costume states. So we can just get looks, next costume, and a wait from control, wait for 0.2 seconds. If I click and test that, there you go, you get that little animation going on. Okay, now obviously our ghost is pretty big, so let's make it a bit smaller in the sprite info area. Let's try 20%, maybe a bit small, 30%, no, maybe 20 was better. I mean, it'll depend entirely in your game on how much space you've got. But of course, when you go full screen, it's a little bit more obvious, so maybe that's fine. We now need to add some code to make it actually move around our maze. And for that, we're going to use some glides. So let's add another when I receive show dots. And we're going to want to set up another forever loop that sets up a repeated pattern of movement for this ghost. So we're going to start off by giving it a place to begin. So choose your location where you want your ghost to appear, maybe down here, for example. And just make sure that you then grab a go to from motion. So when I receive show dots, go to that initial location, and then we're going to set up our little movements from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glide from here to here. So if you just click and drag and move your little ghost, and now you can grab the from motion glide 1 second to, and it will have now picked that new location you've just moved to. 1 second is awfully quick. Let's try 4 seconds. And now let's move up here, and let's now glide to there. And 1 second probably is about right for that. Let's move him back and another glide. And now let's go back to over here and another glide. And this time we can go back to 4 seconds again. Notice every time you want to move him somewhere, so up here perhaps, then you choose another glide, and that was a bit of a shorter one, so maybe that would be just 2 seconds. Or no, that could be probably 1 second. And then I'm going to want to bring him along here, so that might be another 1 second. And then I want to take him up here, and that was a bit further, so maybe that one is a 2 seconds. Then I want to take him over here, and that one perhaps is more like 3 seconds. Then I'll take him down here, which is 2 seconds again probably. Then I'll take him over here, which maybe is just 1. and then I've got to go back again, and you've got to kind of undo the circuit you've taken. So let's just click on this and test that circuit. Okay, so now we need to add some code to put into effect this slowing down effect on PacMan. So to do that, we're going to want to add a little bit more code, and we're going to want to say if the ghost is touching PacMan, then do you remember that speed variable we made for our bonus sprite? Well, unsurprisingly, we're going to set speed to a smaller number now. Let's go to events, when I receive, show dots, put this in a forever loop, control forever. If I'm touching PacMan, then I want to set speed to, let's make him really slow, 1. Then I'm going to want to wait 10 seconds and then set the speed back to its original, which was 3. Okay, so that's going to slow PacMan down temporarily. We do have a problem, however. If PacMan is nearby that ghost and this 10-second clock starts, and then PacMan touches the ghost again, that 10 seconds will restart, which seems a bit harsh and a bit unfair. So we may only want this to happen if the speed has not already been slowed down. Okay, so what we're saying, if the speed's already set to 1, don't do this again, it's a bit harsh. But if it's anything other than 1, then yeah, by all means, slow PacMan down. So to do that, we can add an if inside this. So this now sits inside an if. So if touching PacMan, and then we can do another if in there. Or actually, for simplicity, well, let's take that out. Let's change this one. If that touching PacMan, let's put an and there. So we can put an and in here. So if he's touching PacMan, and I'm going to need a not, and I'm going to need an equals. This is going to be a little bit of complex Boolean algebra for you, but don't worry. We're going to say speed and 1. Okay, so this is saying, look, if the slowdown ghost is touching PacMan, and it's not the case that the speed is set, that speed is currently set to 1, then set speed to 1, wait 10 seconds, and set speed back to 3 again. So if the speed is 3 or 6, because perhaps he's been touching his bonus sprite, then it will be true that the speed is not 1, in which case this will work if touching PacMan and the speed is not 1. But if the speed is 1, because he's already touched the ghost, and we're in that 10-second little break, then we don't want this to trigger again. Okay, so that puts a little safeguard in there for us. So let's give this a test. Let's just run our game and see what happens. So I'm going to try and interact with that ghost. I'm going to go down and hit it deliberately and see if I slow down. So it's actually quite hard to get it. And oh, I hit him, and I'm now definitely going quite a lot slower. Okay, so that seems to be working pretty well. Now, it'd be quite nice if there was some sort of indicator on the screen to tell us that we were now in some sort of slow-mo. So I'm going to create a little sprite just to appear up here to say slow-mo, so that the user knows that's what's happening. So let's create a new sprite, and let's get some text, and let's choose a color to fill that text, and you can choose whatever font you want for this. Click in there and just say slow-mo, and maybe stick that in the center, and let's even make perhaps 2 costumes for that, one where it's a different color, so it can alternate between like yellow and red, so it will flash. And then let's just add some code for this. Let's see, we would want this to appear when that slow motion message has been sent. So let's go to events, and let's say when I receive new message, and let's do show slow-mo, or we can even do slow-mo activated, something like that, activated. And let's say at that point we want to show, and we want to start a loop. So it's going to be a forever loop with a wait in it, maybe half a second wait, and we want it to show the next costume. So it's going to go between the yellow and red flashing, and then we maybe want to have another event, which is to when I receive new message, and this is going to be hide or slow-mo deactivated perhaps. And at this point we just want to hide again. So now we need to change our slow-mo sprite to make that appear. We also want that not showing when the game begins. So let's just do events, green flag, hide as well. Okay. Right, so when the ghost initially touches PacMan, we want to broadcast slow-mo activated, and when after 10 seconds we're going to deactivate that, so slow-mo deactivated, which should hide that message again. Let's see what happens now. So here I am, I'm not touching the ghost yet, so I'm moving at normal speed, and then I touch the ghost and slow-mo is activated, and after 10 seconds I should go back to normal speed and that sign should disappear. Excellent, and that's worked exactly as I wanted it to. So that's all you need to do in order to add a ghost that causes PacMan to slow down. Hopefully you'll be able to do similarly and add that to your game. In our next video, we're going to add some more ghosts. We're going to add a ghost that is a revealer ghost, and a revealer ghost reveals the killer ghost. And when we hit the killer ghost, it will be game over, and that will be pretty much everything you need to add to your PacMan games. So come back for that last video in this series.